Small camper trailers can be expensive, cramped, and hard to customize. Converting a cargo trailer sounds like a better alternative until you realize it takes time, money, and a variety of skills. But what if you don't have to build anything? This right here, this is an E-Track 2x4 bracket, and this is where the magic happens. Putting together a no-build camper like this, it's like assembling a puzzle with pre-made pieces, and you just have to put it all together to form the picture. Today I'll show you why a one-day no-build cargo trailer isn't just faster and cheaper, it might even be better than a full conversion. Our family lived out of this camper for over 10,000 miles across Alaska, Canada, and down into the lower 48. We lived full-time in this little guy for 4 straight months, 2 years in a row. We even homeschooled in this little trailer, balancing adventure with everyday life. No tools, no weeks of work, just a simple budget-friendly setup. And the best part? We're building it all again right here in this episode, start to finish, in just one day. This right here is the foundation of the entire no-build trailer. So this is an E-Track rail, and if you're not familiar with this, this is a pretty genius idea in that you can mount cargo attachment points to your trailer to secure things. And this allows you to move them within the rail system. So you can move your bed, your cabinets, your table limitlessly. Because as you see here from the beginning to the end, this is an attachment point here, 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 all the way through. And the beauty, besides just being able to move things wherever you want, whenever you want, there are no tools required. So let me show you the first piece of gear we're going to use in this, I think 4 or maybe 5-piece system. I'm going to take this 2x4 and I'm going to cut it down to the width of the trailer. Now most of us can do this with a miter saw, but if you don't have power tools, it's as simple as picking up a $5 yard sale saw and a guide like this. And if you don't have this, I mean any saw will do. You could even use a hacksaw because you're going to see we don't have to be that accurate with these cuts. I then drop this 2x4 into this bracket, and that's really it. Now I did a pretty accurate cut. There's not much room for play, and that actually makes it go in a little tougher. But if your cuts are off, again, there is tons of play in here to get it to stay into the bracket. But remember, I can move this wherever I want. I hope you see the beauty of this already. I'm not forced into one configuration. I don't have to know 10 years from now what my camping style or needs will be. This changes with my needs. I can move this daily, yearly, and it's all on this E-Track system. And then once I get these braces in place, it is time for the next piece. We've now got the bottom finished. This next piece is optional. This is a 2x6. This has 2 purposes. Number 1, it's going to be a stop for your bed so it doesn't fall off during transit. And then it kind of also works as like a bunk guard so you don't roll over in the night. As you can see, I'm also overkill on these braces. I took out 1. I think I could have half of these and still have the support needed for the next component. Now that you have the brackets in place, it's time for the next piece, which is just plywood. Now the beauty of this, you can cut this to size if you want. It doesn't even need to fit perfectly up there. Or if you don't have the tools, just go to Home Depot or Lowe's, ask the guys to do a rip cut for you. And like I said, this doesn't have to be accurate. The 2x4s, the plywood, all of these can be cuts where you're really not, you don't have to measure twice and they're going to fit in here well. Like I said, this is a very forgiving project. Now you'll see in the corners, there's some little notches there, and that's so it can go nice and flush up against this edge, giving you a little more bedding up to the door, but I really don't think it's necessary. So I know you probably want to get to the essential gear and what we need to really live out of this trailer. But before we get to that, I think we really need to nail down the configurations, help you understand what this camper can do, because there's so many options. Our family keeps it really basic. We have 3 options. So this is layout number 1. This is a queen bed on the bottom with your bunk here up top. Now this isn't like a regular bunk. This will hold an adult easily. I mean, really, it can hold 2 adults close. The boys both sleep up there. May and I sprawl out here. And you still have fairly decent space back here. So this is all standing space, able to cook, prep, eat, hang out. Not quite enough room to put a couch in here, but it's a big space. So if I'm going to be bouncing back and forth between gear hauling, there's some space, and sleeping and using this as a camping trailer, and it's just very multifunctional all summer, I'm going to put this queen bed up top. What that does, it gives me a bunk here, but this bunk can also be used as just another gear platform. And then below this bunk, I have another space to put gear as well. So I have 2 entire layers of gear that can hide under here. Then, if I do need to haul gear across town, I just remove this lower bunk and I still have this bed to sleep on if I get caught up on the road at night. Same thing goes if we're traveling, let's say to Colorado, to pick up a load of gear from IKEA. I can take all this out, fill this up with just a bunch of junk we probably don't need, and then our family still can sleep up here above the junk on the way home. And the beauty of this layout of bunk on the bottom and bed up top is it gives you a lot more floor space up front. So those of you with a large family, we used to have this queen bed up top. You know, I should measure this. I think it's actually bigger than a queen, a little bigger. The bunk bed below, and then here now, because you've gained space because this bunk isn't as deep, you can put a futon out there. So it's a couch during the day, and then it folds out, and now you can sleep 4 to 6 people easily in this camper. I realized what I was saying was probably hard to visualize. So this is that queen bed. So imagine if this queen bed went up here in place of this bunk. Now, floor space would go all the way from here back to here. And then if you really need to haul a lot of gear, you just remove that top bed and you have an entire trailer again to do whatever you need. So you probably noticed I decided to mount everything horizontal, meaning the E-tracks. And the beauty of this is it gives me a lot of play front to back, but it limits my play up and down. So I had to decide how much gear space do I want under this bed? How much headroom between this bed and this bed and this bed and the ceiling? Where am I sacrificing? And so another option you can do is, you can put some of this horizontal track near the front, and then in the rear, I've seen people do vertical track. And this gives you the option to move those beds up and down into endless configurations, almost, not quite endless, but you have all these options. Your next step is either drilling this into the 2x4s to really secure it down, or just leave it. And that's what we do. We just leave it because the weight of your bed, the weight of the bedding, it's going to keep this all in place during transit. And by not having screws in place, that means when you want to change the configuration around for hauling gear across town, bringing motorbikes in here or whatever, you don't have to deal with anything. Just pull everything out quickly, put it back in. If you notice in the front here, we have a nice little shelf, looks built in, but this also can remove. This is built using E-track again, holding it in place, cut to fit this little front.
This is how I envision my life.
It's pretty nice, isn't it?
Yeah, this is the way it's supposed to be.
The possibilities with all these different adapters on that E-track system, they're almost endless. I'm just gonna show you some examples of what I've seen done in these small camper trailers. I've seen shelves, folding tables, workbenches, bins, cabinets, mounted otter boxes, first aid kits, shovel mounts, the list goes on. Another configuration that I think's probably better than what we're doing, instead of a solid bunk platform down low, why not mount those bunks to the wall and be fold down bunks? This way when the motorcycles come in or the gear, you just flip them up on the wall, they're out of the way, no taking out platforms, the support, the plywood, but yet you still have the benefit of this nice, comfy, solid bed above that never needs moved because it doesn't really get in the way of your gear. So now you have an idea of all those configurations, what you can mount on the wall. I want to introduce you to the gear that I would put in this trailer to enjoy out here, to be self-sufficient, to be able to get off grid. What does this trailer need? And as usual, I'm probably going to miss things. So if there were configurations that I didn't touch on or wall mounts, let me know in the comments. Same with the gear. If there's something that you thought we should have added to this, put it in there. This is where I get my ideas and make these videos. It's you guys. Look how nice and airy this camper is. So we just put in the mattresses. And those of you who own a camper, you know this already, but we're looking for a mattress that's not too thick. So a standard mattress is going to take away your head height for those on the bunk and the height between this queen bed and this bunk bed. Let's start with the most expensive piece of gear. Just get it out of the way. I would suggest a dual zone fridge. This is going to keep you out longer because, as you notice, this is a big camper. You're going to find weekends are fun, but why not go for a week? Weeks are fun, why not go for a month? You may end up in here full time. And so why you want a dual zone is it gives you the ability to keep things frozen and the ability to keep things cool at the same time. And yes, you're right, that's not a dual zone fridge. I'll put a link in the description below of the type of fridges that we believe in. Budget fridges, fridges with good compressors, but that don't break the bank. You can get away with a fridge like this without dual zone. We use them basically 100% of the time. You're gonna look at this and go, I wanna do it all inside. And yes, that's what I'm gonna show you today too. This can be self-contained where you have your toilet in here, your sink, all your water usage, your privacy. But this, as you see here, is the configuration May and the boys and I use. We like to do everything outside. So our cooking, our bathroom, our cleaning, everything is out there. So you're gonna see how we store most of that under this bed so it can be utilized when this back is open. Everything kind of works almost like a teardrop out the back. So next step obviously is power. If you have a fridge, you're going to need a way to power it, as well as these lights, your fans, everything else we're going to talk about. And I suggest smaller power stations. Not only are they easier to move around and more affordable, I find that you can kind of use them in a dual purpose by getting 2 of these versus 1 large one. So what's the advantage of a large power station? Typically, the bigger the power station, the larger the watt output. So if you're running really heavy things like hair dryers and high AC heaters, you might want to go with something big like a 1500, 2000 watt power station. And again, you have the room in here. But if you use something like this, I love this little Bouge RV300 because it has a quick charge off AC. So if for some reason you just aren't getting the sun out here, which we're going to talk about, you can run this to a friend's house or a coffee shop, and in a half hour, you're pretty much topped off. And then I just love a 500 because I think it's just the perfect size for weight and, you know, moving around. And you don't need 2 of these. 1 of these, just running what you basically need here, fridge and lights, paired with solar, can keep this going almost indefinitely. May is like the queen of hooks. You show us your hooks? May uses a hook for everything. While May puts up these fairy lights, I'm gonna show you other options. So these are your regular 120 volt bulbs. These work, all this is for ambience. We're gonna talk about more utility lighting later. But what this does is it has to run through your inverter and there's a loss of energy. So you wanna look for lights like this. So this is a light that runs off of USB. These are 12 volt. Lights that run off of that cigarette adapter. You want a light that doesn't have to go through the inverter, so it's taking very little energy draw. Because this is a no-build camper, what do you use for these hooks?
3M, the little sticky command hooks.
Next, you have your utility lights. And the beauty of these is they're small, they're portable, they fill up a lot of space in terms of the light that it throws. They can be amber, you can turn them to daylight if you need it. But I love that they are multi-use. So this is the MIFA, as you guys have seen on the channel. It's a speaker, so I can use it connected to my projector. If a baby's sleeping, you can get ambient noise on this. It's a power station, so it can charge my phone. It can attach to these fairy lights or other 12 volt lights in here and run this system while running this light as well. And obviously it's just a great flashlight or lantern to take around camp. The sky's the limit with storage. We use just basic Sterilite drawers that come apart like this. In transit, they just come down like this. They're not going to fall over ever. We even kept them up in transit with a bungee, and that works as well. Next is your fan. So I always thought you needed a vent fan in a vent. Our family rarely opens this vent. With this much pass through with the door here and then opening the back, all we do, you can hear it here. This is some Velcro that we attach those bug meshing, the magnetic ones, so you can get out the door, and you can put the same thing in the back. And then all you need is just a little 12-volt fan. This, again, multi-use. I think you're seeing a theme here. This is a power station, this is a light, and this is a fan. So what happens when you run out of energy in all these devices? Well, that's why I bring around portable solar panels. And that's also why I mentioned I like smaller power stations. With this solar panel, I can chase the sun throughout the day. And by having two portable power stations, this guy can play the game of chasing, and the other one can be back inside being utilized for something else. I've tried a lot of panels. I really like something in this 200 watt range. I don't think it needs to be that efficient. A budget panel is going to do you just fine. And then you can just haul this thing everywhere. To me, it's all about it being very flat. You're looking for a panel that can slide under your seats or slide under the bed easily. So now we're going to talk more about those full-time items, the enclosed kitchen, the toilet, things like that. But I just want you to know, for our style of camping, we keep it all here. The toilet, the hygiene items, the dishwashing sink, our paddle boards, the inflatable kayaks, the fire pits, all that gear comes here, and it's organized really nice so it can pull out quickly from either side if needed. So this is just a basic table that's going to start our camp kitchen. So we're going to start with the simplest setup, which is just a portable wash system. So pretend this is your rinse bucket. It's actually our drying rack. This is your main water for washing. And then you have some sort of water source with a pump. Now you don't need this nice Dometic expensive water bottle and pump, water container. I'll link a video below where we have a $30 version of this, but all you do is just tap this button and you have your water. But if we're going to take it a step further and make it feel a bit like home, here's what I would do. So instead of this being up here, it's going to come down under the table, nice and out of the way visually. You're going to cut a hole in here where this line's going to come up and sit nicely like a traditional faucet. Then you're going to make a cut in here and you're going to place some sort of basin in here so it's a built-in sink. You can use a traditional sink stop that's going to hold that water, and when the water needs to go, you have a gray water container here. There's going to be a line running out of this to the bottom of this sink. Released water from out of the sink is going to drain into this gray water, which can be dumped offsite. So look at all this space. So now you have the faucet in place, the basin here for your water, and you have a lot of area for either prepping or making your camp stove location. Now I typically use this stove outside. For indoor cooking, I just use a small backpacking stove with a little fuel cylinder. But if this isn't enough prep space for you, I'll show you how you can add even more space in here for that. And yes, ergonomically, I would raise this table up. This is just what I had at the moment. I'm just trying to show you what I can do with just makeshift items. Next, you can add that drop table I was talking about here. Keeps it completely out of the way, but once you need that prep space, you can bring it down. And then I have another table out there that I've always been thinking about putting in here. This is my tailgater tire table. You've seen me use this in many locations, in many videos. It attaches to the tire of your tow vehicle or your personal vehicle, and it becomes a really quick, really light, easily deployable table. So I thought you could use the attachments for here. I even had a spare tire stolen from the front of this trailer, so I had thought about bringing the spare in. They wanted it so bad, I had it locked with a lock nut, and they ripped it out of the front, and so I didn't want any more damage. So you could bring in a spare tire, mount it in here somewhere, and then use this table off of that. So kind of dual purpose. Another thing you could do is just bring in more of like a picnic table style setup. If this bed is up there, then you have plenty of space for that futon or tables like this. Or check this out. This is playing with the E-Track system and those mounts and coming up with a unique little table. So this could be mounted up here high as additional prep space. Obviously you can make this table much bigger. Down here as a bedside table. Again, the possibilities are endless with this. Just get creative, find spaces, and then it can move from spot to spot with your ever-changing needs. This style of table that May is setting up here, this is another really neat design that gives you a lot of extra space and a lot of organization. So let me show you how this works. It is super deep, goes all the way back here, can be accessed from both sides. If you didn't want things hidden and just open for easy access, it can stay open like this. I can move this over here, put the ice co underneath it. Again, a lot of space under these as well for storage. Next, you're probably going to need some sort of heat source to extend your trips into those shoulder seasons. And I typically bring a buddy heater. I didn't have it today. The beauty of the buddy heater, you hook that fan from my hack video, I'll link that below, and that's gonna really circulate that air in here. But the problem with a traditional buddy heater is at elevation, because of these oxygen sensors, oftentimes they won't light. Like that pilot light just will not kick on. And so I bring a little buddy with me everywhere as well, because it's not quite as finicky with the oxygen sensor. I can be up at 9,000 feet and this will run fine. I also bring with me a little 120 volt heater. This is probably too small for the space. This is a teardrop heater, but I bring something a little bigger. If you have shore power, this is endless heat if you're at a campground with paid electricity. But I also use these if I have good solar and I'm topped off. I'll use this just right before going to bed to kind of get that temp right. And then again, when I wake up, I put it on to just kind of warm up the cabin. So I'm not using that energy all night long. But in terms of energy, this is your best friend. This is a 12 volt heated blanket. Now this is actually a mattress pad or a heated pad. And so you take these little diaper pins and permanently attach it to your bed, but there's throw style ones as well. But I think these are a great alternative to these bigger heaters. Next, you're going to need your toilet. We have a whole video taking this Julka Gotta Go and battling it up against the Trillino. I think this guy, I mean, it goes back and forth in the video. I love the Trillino for certain things and this for certain things, but in this scenario, this is probably the best option for many of you because for one, it's by far the lowest price compost toilet out there. But number two, it works dual or really triple function. So you can use this just lined with a biodegradable bag and just take it to the dump site. You can use this as a composting toilet, or you can get the version that has both, and this can be a cassette toilet as well. So if you want to put chemical in this so that your number two turns into a liquid so you can easily dump it at the nearest, dump station or public bathroom, you can do that. And the containers in here are quite small and discreet, so you could sneak it in just a little bag. Oh, big guy. Whee! What if there's two of you? I don't think you're going to want to get up in the middle of the night and go, right next to somebody who's 2 feet away. One of the easiest things you can do is create a partition wall. And that also helps. Let's say at night you want to do some of your work at this desk while your partner's sleeping over there. A wall that divides that area and knocks down that light is going to be greatly appreciated. Like May and I mentioned, you can use Velcro and make some sort of wall just with a Velcro system. You can use track system where you put in a curtain and it runs on the track. Or if you just want to contain to a small area, you can just take a hula hoop. Put that up here, run canvas over the frame of that hula hoop, just step into that and do your duty. That's the way you can change your clothes in there, you can go to the bathroom. But making a space this large and cutting it into smaller little spaces sometimes will make this even feel larger.
And just like that, you've got a fully functional camper. No build required. This setup is simple, affordable, and ready to roll in just one day. If this gives you ideas for your own cargo trailer, I'd really appreciate it if you click that like button. And if you want more ways to camp smarter, make sure to subscribe. There's plenty more coming your way.